I'm delighted to welcome you all here this evening. I suppose it's to mark the initial success of the new construction register, as we call it, CIRI, and this represents a lot of work that has gone in by the Federation and by the Department of Environment over the last couple of years now, I suppose. I was just thinking, sort of, before I came up here, about the genesis, and Minister, you'll know when it's a good idea and it's working, everyone wants to take credit for it. And if something goes wrong, they'll say, who the hell thought of this in the first place? And I remember a little bit, I think it was the Italian Job, if you remember that.
I deal with that last week myself.
The Italian Job a long time ago, I think it started off with a guy saying, I've got a brilliant idea. And then the whole thing went along, and the robbery and the minis in the sewer. And eventually, after it all went askew, the car is hanging over a cliff, about to disappear, and the guys are just trying to seeking to get the balance right. And next thing, the same guy says, "I have a brilliant idea." So we didn't see any more. But I was trying to get the genesis of this idea, and it might be a little bit biased, but Hubert Fitzpatrick tells me that he was on prime time a day or two after the whole McFeely Priory Hall issue had hit the headlines and so on. And I was unavailable, Hubert, obviously, and Hubert, and he was defending the indefensible. And, you know, what is the industry going to do about this? And Hubert suggested, which was an idea that went back a long time, and Mike, I think you were involved years ago in a register for builders, and the idea grew out there. In-house we got involved, and we got involved with your department as well, and with some of the excellent people that you have that are here, in terms of Aidan O'Connor, and so on. So that idea grew, a committee was set up here, and we're a federation, ministers, it's a little bit like a coalition. When we work together we can do very well, but sometimes it can be a difficult job to pull everyone together. This committee brought all sides together, worked very, very hard in terms of coming up with a robust registration system, which we wanted to be credible, because our credibility, I suppose, has been challenged by a number of different issues, and it's something that we hold very dear to ourselves. So eventually the committee had a joint chairs of Mel O'Reilly and Brian McKeown, and certainly I want to compliment them, and I know other people will refer to them later on, but they did a superb job at the very outset when it was only an idea. And I just want to say thanks very much to Mel and to Brian for persevering and sticking with it, and they're both now on the board as well, and probably feel that their work is only beginning. But I do need to acknowledge the massive work that was done before now. And it is about competency. Our new president, Mick Stone, said today that the big issue in his next 2 years is about standards and raising standards. And we want to be proud of our industry, and the people that are members are certainly proud people going back over generations in lots of cases. We want to be proud of our industry, and we don't want to let any cowboys bring down the industry, and that's going to be his idea. But it's about experience, it's about compliance, it's about track record, and it's about giving confidence to the consumer. So we're delighted that the register has got insofar as it is. We're proud that it is going to serve as a mechanism to encourage CPD, which we all learn as we go along. New building regulations and new changes bring a lot of changes, and there's a lot of people that built houses 5 years ago that have to make major upgrades and upskilling to follow the new building regulations. We're eagerly awaiting the next step, Minister, in terms of advancement of CIRI, when it is to be put on a statutory footing in 2015, and we're certainly looking forward to working intensively with yourself and your department in terms of that particular positive outcome. Yourself, I suppose, are the best person to know how that's going to progress. The Minister was involved in discussions today with the Cabinet on the new investment in housing that we certainly laud the Cabinet for. He says that his flag is flying fairly high at the moment in terms of some of the initiatives he took over the last while, and that this particular initiative will even be bigger and better. But we'll await the announcement of that. Maybe you're going to say something this evening about it. So in terms of the Minister, he's only in the job since this summer. He's become an increasingly familiar voice in the construction industry, particularly. He said, and I've heard him a number of times saying he wants to champion housing, and particularly social housing. That's, you know, something that we like to hear. That's a lot of the work that we do. It's highly labour intensive, and it's fulfilling a number of functions. It's dealing with the problems out there in terms of the housing shortage, and it's dealing with the jobs. And just this week, Minister, we had your colleague, Minister Kevin Humphreys here, and some of his senior officials from social welfare and we're dealing very directly with them in terms of how we cooperate with them in terms of taking people off the live register. But some of the figures was pretty scary. 358,000 plus people that are still unemployed. When we see some of the protests and social problems out there, I'm sure, and I'm not sort of any commentator in that area, but I'm sure a lot of people are frustrated because they don't have a job. The cost of unemployment is scary. I didn't appreciate, but 33% of the total income tax take, 33%, a third of all our income tax goes to support unemployment. So it's an absolute no-brainer if you can find a job for those people. Give them an income and give them an opportunity for contributing to the economy instead of taking. So I believe construction and particularly house building certainly can go a long ways in terms of doing that. As I said, Minister Kelly took over his job as Senior Minister of the Department of the Environment. Just before that he was elected as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, and certainly he's made a mark in terms of taking on some jobs and inheriting some situations that were difficult enough to deal with. And
so
far he's come out smiling, and no protest outside the CIF this evening. Everything was going hunky-dory. We didn't even have security here, Minister. So in terms of the major investment in housing, that's certainly a big one. But I know that you have referred as well to the private housing sector and how to make that more viable and how to make it more cost effective, and how to help and encourage the private building sector to get access to finance. And I know that we're working with yourself in the Department of Finance on that. So I'm not going to go on any longer. We're delighted that you came out here, Minister. We'll have some words from our President, our outgoing President, I suppose, Philip Crampton, and then we'll have some words from Hank Fogarty, who has taken on the very, very important role of Chairman of the CIRI Board. So, Minister, you're very welcome, and we look forward to hearing your words. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here. This is my first time. Could be my last. We'll see. In my capacity as Minister for Firefighting, or otherwise known as Minister for the Environment, Community and Local Government, to acknowledge the great strides made by everyone in setting up the Construction Industry Register of Ireland, which is otherwise known as CIRI, and to underline my commitment and support to its development on a statutory basis, and I am fully committed to this. I think it's absolutely necessary. We have to learn from the past, and we can't ever go through what we went through in the past. I'm clear about this. We can never allow what happened in the past to ever happen in any way, shape or form again, because it's, vast amount of people have been affected by bad decision making and greed and lack of statutory provision, lack of regulation, and effectively it's my generation in particular who has borne the brunt of it, and I say that quite clearly. At the outset, I want to congratulate and compliment the CIRI board that has succeeded in bringing CIRI to life. Well done. In a very short and intense time frame, very challenging I have to say, since its first meeting earlier on this year. And I want to congratulate those who were part of that. It was a long, hard piece of work. I know firsthand that you brought a strong governance focus to the challenging task of balancing consumer and public interests against industry ambition, thus ensuring a registration system that supports quality construction for the common good. And there are two words we should remember quite a lot collectively in this room: the common good. I also wish to thank the CIF for responding enthusiastically, to be fair, and openly to the government's invitation to set up a builders register as part of our wider focus on the necessary reform of building control activity. I welcome the representatives of the Royal Institute of Architects of Ireland, the Society of Chartered Surveyors of Ireland, Engineers Ireland here today, and many others. Your members, particularly those who take on the important roles of designer certifier and assigned certifier, under the revised building control regulations will of course rely greatly on reassurance and quality assurance that I believe will become synonymous with CIRI registrants, and I want to come back to some of that. I'm pleased to note that CIRI has been going from strength to strength since its inception earlier this year. The fact that over 360 firms have registered to date, and that another 700 or so are in various stages of registration, is significant given the current level of activity in the industry, and it augurs well for the future and the development of this very important register. It is also good to see that registered firms are increasingly using the logo in their promotional material and corporate communications. All of this helps to promote a brand that we can all be proud of and work under. Clearly, CIRI is already seen as a desirable mark of quality and distinction, and I look forward to working with the CIRI board, CIF, and all the stakeholders to ensure that this promise is delivered. Thankfully, we're living in changing economic times. I think it's important to acknowledge that. We're now seeing a real and sustained growth in the construction industry and in the wider economy. Central CSO statistics data shows that economic growth for 2014 can confidently be expected to be in the order of 4.7%, if not better. Live register data releases earlier this month show that unemployment now stands at 11%, down from a peak of 15.1% in 2012, which I think is an absolutely amazing achievement. And when I see some of the commentary in the media, I think this is something collectively that should be dialed up, considering where this country came from. Construction output grew by 4.7% in volume terms in the second quarter of 2014, and the latest indicators now point to expansion in each of the three sectors in the industry: civil contracting, commercial investment, and indeed housing, which is very much core to everything I do. Crucially, housing construction, which had lagged behind the return to growth in other sectors this year, has now also returned to growth. And a strong public policy investment program of 2.2 billion that was announced in last month's budget. It was the main area of capital investment by the government. We literally put as much as we could absolutely possibly put into housing, and I will be making an announcement in relation to a social housing program this week, which will be the most comprehensive social housing program ever announced in the history of the state. It's something that I think you should all digest and take on board, because we need everyone pulling together in relation to this strategy, which is going to be there for future generations. The CIRI register and the reforms of building control activity now provide a robust and reliable regulatory framework that I believe will prove fit for purpose in ensuring that we leave behind the bad old days where sharp practice and a quick buck were the order of the day sometimes, and where clients and consumers found themselves shortchanged and with little hope of recourse from the industry or from public authorities. It's unacceptable behaviour, and to a degree I believe that certainly people were let down. I also believe to a degree that people got away with practices that they shouldn't have, and it can't be allowed to happen anymore. Public tolerance for defective buildings and shoddy workmanship has been well and truly exhausted. People don't have a tolerance for this anymore, and they're right. I don't have a tolerance for it myself. I see the CIRI register as a critical reform which is part and parcel of the efforts of governance and industry to re-establish public confidence and trust in the quality sector. It's all about quality, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about quality into the future. Trust me, I believe the people in this room who adhere to quality standards and produce quality in product will be the successful ones into the future. And the cream will rise to the top from that side of things, and that's what I want to ensure, that those who do act in that way deserve the rewards that they get. CIRI will work in tandem with the revised building control framework now in operation since the Building Control Amendment Regulations 2014, better known as SI number 9 of 2014, which came into operation on the 1st of March of this year. The new regulatory framework empowers competence and professionalism in the design and construction of buildings. Developers, designers and builders and any agents working on their behalf are now accountable to compliance with their statutory obligations. They must demonstrate via the public register of building control how compliance has been achieved in respect of their construction project. It's very important. It's been referenced here earlier on. We can't never have Priory Hall again. We could cite off another number of examples. I've seen them with my own eyes in recent times in relation to various different projects around the country, I even had meetings on them in the last week or so. That's absolutely outrageous what was allowed to happen in the past. Having said that, we can't be using a mallet to crack a nut in relation to some aspects of the building regs, and I will be proposing that there will be amendments to the building regs, particularly in relation to self-build one-off houses and extensions, because I believe there is a need for some change in that whole area, because I think the regs as they currently stand are a bit too onerous. In fact, I know they're too onerous for people, and they need to be amended, and myself and Minister Coffey will be working on that. CIRI enables competent main contractors, builders and specialist subcontractors to register for the category of works they typically undertake, while publicly committing to working to an agreed code of conduct, to continuous development of the competence of the firm and its staff, and to being subject to an appeals and complaints process which will deal with both complaints from industry in relation to registration decisions and from consumers in relation to the shortcomings or otherwise of a registered entity in abiding by the agreed code of conduct. In summary, the CIRI register will strengthen the arrangements in place for quality construction as follows: by providing a means by which developers, owners and construction professionals can satisfy themselves that the main contractors, subcontractors and specialist subcontractors they use will be competent and experienced for the work that they undertake. I think this is critically important. I've seen too many bad examples in the past where if you go below a layer of yourselves or of contractors, that responsibility is somehow diminished. It's not. It's not in relation to the quality of the end product. It's not in relation to the decisions of those subcontractors in relation to how they behave themselves on site, how they treat their workers, or any way, shape or form. All of this needs to change. By ensuring that responsible, compliant firms can compete on a level playing field and are not subject to unfair competition from unscrupulous operators who flout their statutory obligations. Absolutely imperative. And it's imperative that this works. By ensuring that clients, including public bodies and consumers of construction providers, are aware of the compliance record or otherwise of any CIRI registered entity they engage. I think we need to see this happening, and we need to see the compliance records of everyone who works in this industry. And we need to have league tables. We need to be able to judge, because that's how you raise standards. And it needs to be very transparent, and it will be very transparent. And there will be no way around it, and I think that's necessary. By supporting the continuous development over time of the professionalism and competence of individual firms and thus the industry as a whole. And last but not least, by providing an effective means for responding to client or consumer complaints against CIRI registered entities. Any real complaints need to be dealt with, and dealt with in a very serious way. So colleagues, by way of conclusion, I want to reiterate that the government and I are standing full square behind the development of this register and are working towards placing it on a statutory footing in 2015. It will be put on a statutory footing by myself, working with Minister Coffey in 2015. And the heads of a building control bill have been prepared by my department and will be considered by government approximately by the turn of the year. It will pave the way for a building control bill putting CIRI into law to be enacted next year in line with the government's commitment under Construction 2020, which guides us an awful lot of the way in everything we do. So I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank the CIF, your president, your chief executive, board members and everyone else. I want to thank in particular the CIRI board for their dedication and commitment to this key priority, and everyone who's put in a huge amount of work. I want to thank my own department officials for liaison and working very hard on this. This is something that I think is absolutely imperative for the future of the industry, future development of the industry, branding of the industry, and also to create the control mechanisms to ensure we have an industry fit for standard and we don't go through everything we went through in the past because we can't. That's as simple as that. So this is a key milestone, it's a key development, and I look forward to it being a benchmark by which we can all judge progress into the future. It's absolutely imperative it is successful, They're dedicated to making it successful, and I want to thank everyone for coming here today, because by your attendance you're obviously endorsing this, and that's something very much to be welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, and I have no doubt by recalling some of the bad examples of our industry, you're sort of getting the hairs up on some people, because we have no time in CIF for those sort of people or those practices. And most of them aren't even our members, but we're not going, we've turned over a new leaf and we want to move on. And just in terms of the industry, the FORFOS report defined the industry as construction provides and maintains all the infrastructures that all society and industry depend. So whether it be the Aviva Stadium or the Intel plant or the Pfizer plant or the fabulous FDI investments here, it's our industry have done fabulous standards, and some of those foreign guys have set standards here that are higher than anything that has been seen in the world. So we have a good record, and we have, but we want to build on that now. And certainly, as Mick Stone has said coming in 2 years' time, it's going to be about the standards, and we don't want any minister or anyone else coming in and reminding us of the old stuff. But I appreciate where you're coming from as well.
Thank you. A few years to go before you'll stop being reminded. So
well, maybe, but you know, there's a load of there's no profession that hasn't some skeletons in the cupboard. And I
you're all wrong in my current one included.
Exactly. So, but we thank you for coming out, and as you said, it's your first time here. It's the first time we've had a government minister in the building for a while as well, so we appreciate that, and thank you very much. So we're going to move things along fairly quickly because we know that you have some other agenda this evening, but I'm going to invite Philip Crampton, our President, to say a few words first of all, and then we'll have Hank.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Minister Kelly for joining us here this evening. It's great to see the Minister taking such a strong interest in the construction register, CIRI. His department has been at the forefront in helping establish this register, and it's because of the cooperation and the support between the Department of the Environment and CIF that CIRI has come about. We in the industry and CIF believe that CIRI represents a major milestone for us. This is the first time we've been able to create a platform that allows for competent, experienced construction companies and sole traders to be separated from those who have given the industry such a bad name. Before CIRI, anyone could pass themselves as a builder or contractor regardless of their experience. Effectively, all they needed was a van and a business card, and they could sell their services. The lack of any official register made it easy for those who cut corners to secure work. There was a sizable gap in which these organisations were operating. The impact of that gap has been seen in far too many poorly constructed projects around the country, projects which I'm sure everyone in this room will have come across. CIRI will help drive out that type of practice. It will allow those who carry out good, quality work and who meet all the eligibility criteria to stand out from those who don't. Most of the companies who are in CIF take great pride in the work they carried out. That is the kind of mentality you want to see in any construction company you're going to be working with. It's also a mentality that will be fostered and encouraged through CIRI. We have some fantastic companies and sole traders in the Irish construction sector, and CIRI provides them with the platform to stand out, a platform they deserve. It also provides a register which construction professionals such as architects, chartered surveyors and engineers, as well as the general public, can rely on. Already CIRI is proving to be a big hit. More than 400 companies are listed on the register, and there are in excess of 800 additional applications at various stages of completion, so more than 1,200 construction companies and sole traders have already expressed an interest in joining CIRI. We expect to have between 1,500 to 2,000 companies listed on the register by the end of next year. We're very pleased at how CIRI has performed to date, and it's fair to say that it has exceeded our expectations in the first year. Of course, none of this would have been possible without the many people who have put a vast amount of time and effort into making this thing a reality. This all started following discussions between the Department of the Environment and CIF. So I'd like to thank all those involved in the department for the enthusiasm they have had for the register and for their help and guidance. The register would not have been possible if it was not for the tremendous knowledge and insight of those in the department that they have contributed. For a register like this to work, it had to have support of the industry. There are 39 different categories listed in CIRI, so you can understand how much of a phenomenal undertaking setting up this register has been. The initial plans for the register were guided by the hard work and intelligence of the CIF Register of Builders subcommittee. These were the people who took a very complex task and provided the practical insight that was needed to make it a reality. Everyone on that committee deserves a lot of praise for the work they've contributed to the establishment of CIRI. Anthony Neville, Brian Redmond, Colin Cleary, Danny Murphy, Declan O'Grady, Eamon Stapleton, Gary O'Kane, Michael Cosgrave, Michael O'Sullivan, Mike Ryan and Neil Durkin. But very special words of thanks too to the chairman and vice chairman of that committee, Mr. Mel O'Reilly and Mr. Brian McKeown. They have been the true champions of CIRI throughout CIF. Mel and Brian are the people who have allowed this register to go from a vague idea to a fully formed platform that will shortly be put into legislation. They have invested countless hours and huge amounts of energy into guiding the project step by step, and I think we can rightly call Brian and Mel two of the main fathers of the CIRI project. Mel and Brian are also been keen members of the CIRI Registration Board, the group of people who have been invaluable to the register since they first took up their positions earlier in this year. The CIRI Registration Board has had a very difficult job, taking all that is put on paper and making it into reality. This was no mean feat, but the members of the Registration Board have taken all of this considerable job with great insight, dedication and thoughtfulness, which has allowed CIRI to become a living register. They have displayed strong judgment throughout their marshalling of CIRI, and it's thanks to their work that the register is giving credence throughout the wider construction industry. On behalf of CIF, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Registration Board for giving their time so generously to this vitally important project. Cormac Allen, Brendan Duffy, Liam Egan, Paul Ford, Deirdre Fax, Brian Higgison, Brian McKeown, Mel O'Reilly, Kevin Sheridan and Martin Vaughan. I know this has been a sizable undertaking, but the work you are doing does not go unnoticed, and we in the CIF are extremely grateful for all that you have done. I'd also like to pay particular thanks to the chairman of the CIRI Registration Board, Mr. Hank Fogarty, for all his efforts and for the tremendous energy he has personally invested. Hank and the Registration Board have been expertly assisted by the various members of the CIF team who've been working behind the scenes. Hubert Fitzpatrick has been extensively involved in every aspect of the development of CIRI and has provided a guiding hand in every step of the journey to date. Hubert has put in hours upon hours of work into helping getting CIRI off the ground, and he continues to devote his considerable skills to helping this important register. There have also been a wide range of other CIF staff who have made significant contributions. Jeanette Mayer has overseen the administration of CIRI and the CIRI office, ably supported by the extensive work of Anna Nelson and Maud Foley. Robert Butler has been heavily involved in the development of the CPD plan for the register. The CPD element of CIRI will help ensure that those who are on the register continue to learn and develop their expertise. It will help enhance skills and knowledge in the industry, and that will be one of the major long-term benefits. There are also a lot of other CIF staff and directors who have been involved, and I would like to thank them for their work and support. I'd also like to pay tribute to George Hennessy for coordinating the CIF's advancement of CIRI and for setting up the infrastructure and approach that will guide the future development of CIRI. CIF would also like to express our gratitude to all the construction professionals who have already provided such strong support. I see we have senior representatives from RAI, the Society of Chartered Surveyors and Engineers Ireland here tonight. The support provided by your organisations and your members to the register has been invaluable. Having architects, chartered surveyors and engineers making use of the register to find reliable, competent construction companies has been one of the driving forces in encouraging so many companies to apply. We're glad that construction professionals can now see the benefits of CIRI will be able to help the wider construction industry and have been so quick to embrace the use of the register. We thank you for that support and in coming along tonight. Before finishing up, I'd like to again thank the Minister for sparing his time for this event. The Minister, since he took up office, has shown that he's committed to encouraging more construction activity, and the announcement of 2.2 billion in the budget for the social housing programme is certainly evidence of that. He's also clearly stressed that he wants to see the right type of construction and building activity taking place. CIRI will be central in driving better standards, so CIF looks forward to working with you, Minister, in putting the register on a statutory footing in 2015. Finally, on behalf of CIF, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I hope you'll all continue to support the new register. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philip. And as Philip said, our final speaker will be Hank Fogarty. And Hank is a former managing director of SIAC. I'm only speaking from memory now, but I think the Boyne Bridge and the M3 motorway were two of your sort of last projects to were involved, but certainly a highly acclaimed engineer and a lecturer and a former president of the CIF. And I met him fairly recently, and he was running through about 3 different things, and I said, for Jesus' sake, I thought you were retired. And he said, I'm busier now than ever he was. But when we needed an individual to head up the board, and the arrangement with the Department of Finance was that the chair would be appointed by the CIF president, having consulted with the minister. But when the name of Hank Fogarty was offered up, it was readily accepted, and Hank accepted the role as well. So Hank, we're looking forward to your presentation, because you've probably sweated some blood since you took over the role. We did tell him it was sort of going to be a sort of an occasional role where he would, I think it's at least twice or 3 days a week at the moment. Still a lot of catching up to do, so we're looking forward to hearing from you, Hank.
I was going to start this short contribution, and I can assure you it will be a short contribution, with a comment about our Irish national characteristics, and that's never going to win you too much credit. But as a people, we don't like paying money for a service, no matter how valuable or how useful it might be, and we certainly don't like regulation, and we don't like reform, even though we pay lip service to both, and we will complain bitterly when either regulation or reform would have solved the thing that went wrong. But of course it was somebody else who was supposed to do it, even though our opportunity to participate came and went. However, I make those comments because I remember 20 years ago, and Mike Jones, I see him here, will remember fondly as well, I think. 20 years ago there was a proposal that there should be registration of contractors, and it was bitterly opposed within this building. There were lots of small and medium-sized enterprises would say they saw it as a ploy by main contractors to grab lots of the attention for themselves. Lots of people in private would admit it had benefits. Nobody, or virtually very few people, would admit publicly that it had benefit or would sign up for it. So that's why it's so gratifying that this current initiative has received a cautious welcome, but it has received a welcome nonetheless. So you ask yourself, what is it? When we do our brainstorming at our CIRI board, we came up with a, if you wanted, a short, snappy version of what we are. We're an official list of competent entities, either companies or sole traders, who undertake construction work. And that's the important thing. It's the ones who actually produce the built environment. That's the ones that CIRI board need to capture. So how do people get captured? Well, they start the process of registration. They have to meet minimum criteria in relation to health and safety, tax compliance, both VAT and tax clearance. They have to have adequate insurances, a number of other things, and given the highlight ones. And then there's a CPD requirement, continuing professional development, that everybody is going to have to sign up with. And anybody who wants to be a member, a registered member of CIRI, will have to sign a declaration that requires them to abide by a code of ethics and do the things they're supposed to do. So what do they get in return? In return, they get to join a register, either under one of 14 main categories or up to 30 subcategories. And unlike in previous times, there's now a different regime in place. The new building regulations, the assigned certifier regime, all require a competent contractor. And that's the nub. That's the nub of what CIRI is. The emphasis on the CEE, the competent, experienced, and expertise. They're the three things that people will have to meet. So it's not just regulation. It's a steady, hopefully measurable increase in efficiency and competence. And since the state, in fact, is probably the biggest purchaser of construction services, and the state is effectively the taxpayer, because the taxpayer pays the state's bill. So when the benefits come back in lower prices and higher quality to the state, it comes back to the taxpayer, it comes back to every consumer, and it's everybody's advantage. Theory, it's a no-brainer. It should have happened many, many years ago, and I've no doubt that in other countries more efficient and more successful than us, and I believe such entities do exist, that the registers, similar registers exist, and are policed and enforced, which is an important thing. So I will say two last things. That cautious welcome that CIRI received was gratifying. And it unquestionably was. So also is the way in which this board, only two of whom I knew before it commenced last March, the way they came together without any sense of sectional interest, and that's the nicest part about it. There are no sectional interests on the board. There was a common aim to make CIRI the best it could possibly be. And I'd like to thank them for their hard work, constant attendance and commitment, and for their creative thoughts as well, because that was very important, and I'm not going to mention them. And I'm not going to mention the CIRI administrative team either, the people in here who work it, because they've been mentioned also, but their input has been characterised by hard work, by competence, by commitment, and by excellent minutes, and by briefing papers that are generally flawless, so that's wonderful as well. Now, to use that overused cliche, we're on a journey. You know, everybody in this is on a journey, or you're on your personal journey, your corporate journey, or whatever else journey. And we also, excuse me for having derided it on the one stage, but at the same time tagging along after it. So we're not perhaps the most comfortable or scenic journey, but hopefully we'll end up in a better place for everybody. For those who are serious and wholehearted about being involved in construction. And for those who are not seriously involved are wholehearted and or fall into that category the Minister mentioned in relation to shoddy workmanship or the quick buck. I expect the difference for them for CIRI will be, it will be a watershed, but they'll be on the other side of the dividing line. Therefore there won't be a place for the non-competent and hopefully for the non-registered. So that's my message, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Hank. Well, that fairly winds it up, I think, for the evening. We certainly look forward to, in a year's time, maybe yourself still Minister, or maybe you'll be tarnished to go in, or whatever. You come along when we're celebrating the 1,000 member or the 2,000 members, but we want to have everybody in construction involved. And certainly we look forward to your announcement this week, whether it be tomorrow or whatever, with regard to the housing project. 2.2 billion investment is a billion investment is 10,000 jobs in construction, and there's lots of other jobs as well. So 2.2 billion, that's
said more, Tom.
money, and there will be more, I'm sure. But the only concern I had, it was 3 years in the budget, and now it's 5 years. So I hope you're not going to be pushing it out a little bit too far. I'm sure we want those jobs quickly, like I'm sure you do yourself. So we look forward to that initiative. And the one thing I will say to you, Minister, you will find in CIF only people that are supporting quality and competent people. And I'll be talking to Larry as well. When you do make that announcement, we want to be ready to go. You know, we've been talking about shovel-ready projects. There's lots of projects that are shovel-ready, but if there's finance from the government and certainly projects, and whether it be housing agencies or local authorities, we certainly have within this room a lot of experience that can be of genuine assistance to you and to your officials as well. And we'd like to play a positive role in that. We want to be ready to go, and we want, whenever you go for election next time around, to have you know, those jobs, the 22,000 jobs taken up. I think that'll be some boost to the economy, plus others. And we know that there's other big announcements recently in terms of foreign direct investment and so on, which we relish very much, and that's extremely important as we go along. So thanks again for coming out. Thanks to all of you. The professionals that are here were mentioned already, and I see John Gravy and Seamus Feely and John Power are here. and all your other members as well. We appreciate your support in that. And when you're laying out plans and so on, I think, you know, in terms of covering yourself and to be sure that you're getting a good professional to do the job, if they're CIRI registered, you're a long ways down the road, I believe. So I think it's a massive initiative. It's going to turn the industry inside out, and we're certainly looking forward to the whole development of it together. So thanks to you, Minister, to the speakers and to everyone, and I hope you'll stay around for a few photographs and so on. I know the board would like to be have a photograph with you as well, so thanks again.